Hey everybody, this is Ryan McClanahan with HistoryThroughCards.com. I hope you're all doing very well today. This video, I want to share with you the career of Joe Collins, the first baseman of the Yankees in the 1950s. And what's really interesting about him is that he had something of like a 253 lifetime batting average. And again, I thought that was kind of strange because here he's surrounded by all these superstar players on the Yankees like Mickey Mantle and Joe DiMaggio and Phil Rizzuto, and the list just goes on and on and on. And I'm like, how did this guy have such an amazing career with that kind of a low batting average? There's got to be something here. But the problem is that I couldn't really find a whole lot on Joe Collins. And I had heard his name from other ball players that I interviewed who played on the Yankees and who didn't play on the Yankees back in the 1950s. And so today I thought it would be really nice to talk a little bit about him. And I actually don't have any Joe Collins cards in my collection. And I was like, okay, I'm missing that. Like, how does that happen for a guy like me who likes to talk about rather obscure ball players? And the other thing too is I was looking through my collection just to see if I actually had some Joe Collins cards, and I don't even have a 52 Bowman Ralph Kiner or Al Rosen. I was kind of shocked. I mean, I figured like after like 30 years that I probably would have had those two cards, and I don't. So that's probably going to be on my list, my short list for the Lucky's Shriner show coming up next week. I'm going to be at that show. So if you do see me, just stop on by and say hello. I'd love to talk to you guys. I am very kind of particular with the cards that I add to my collection. I would like to grab a 52 Bowman Joe Collins. It's a very, very nice card. However, I want an autographed 52 Bowman Joe Collins, and that is a lot different than grabbing a 3x5 or a regular card or whatever of him. Maybe like a 57 Topps Joe Collins autograph would be fine too. I really like that card as well, and I actually really like the 1953 Topps, and if that was autographed, that'd be great. Grabbing a an autograph from the period in time that these guys were playing in the 1950s was not the easiest thing in the world. Now, I do collect a lot of Bowmans, especially in Topps, and some Gaudis from these guys' playing careers with their autographs. And so I'm going to show you a few of these today and just kind of go over a little bit of this before I get into Joe Collins' story here. So this is a 1933 Gaudi Willis Hudlin, and this is a period autograph from the time when he was playing in the 1930s. And this is a fountain pen signature. And he lived long enough that he could have signed up until the early 2000s. And so he did sign quite a bit. However, there are other players that really didn't do that. So I've been told that the Brooklyn Dodgers players of the 1930s and 40s and 50s especially did not like to sign baseballs, and they only did so because management asked them to do so. But for the most part, a lot of those guys didn't like to sign cards. And obviously, I'm of the age where I can remember back in the 1980s and even the 1990s, where dealers would say, remember, don't get your card autographed because it's going to lose value. If you do, you'll ruin the card. And today, that's a complete 360. Another player here that I don't have him autographed, but this is Billy Werber. And Billy Werber was about 100 years old when he passed away. And he played for the Red Sox and I think the New York Giants as well, and the Reds. And then I kind of remember hearing about him from the Reds, and I did speak to him a couple of times. A very nice guy. I do have a few autographs of his, but not on a card. on artwork. And so a lot of the times when I was doing business with these guys, it was either I was interviewing them or I was doing their portraits. And so I did do his portrait on a number of occasions. However, he lived long enough again where he could have signed up until he passed away, I believe in 2009. I think he was born in 1909. I'm not sure entirely if it says on the back of the 34. This is a high number, by the way. And I do want to write a book about this set and the 33s at some point. So another guy that I do have a original autograph from the time he was playing was Oscar Melolo, and he was a star back in the 1920s and 1930s. And this is a fountain pen signature, and so he passed away in I believe 1966, if my memory is right. So he missed the hobby essentially. I'm not sure entirely how rare this signature is, but I do love this set. The Diamond Star set is awesome. Another guy that signed quite a bit was this gentleman right here, Wally Berger. He's another star for the Boston Braves, and I think he was a 300 lifetime hitter. Not bad for being on the Boston Braves. I think he was really their only star. They may have had other stars too at the time, but one of their biggest. So he was a very good signer. And, I'm not sure during his career, but certainly after his career. And that's usually what you see is a lot of the players from like the 1930s and 40s and 50s are signing after their careers. So this is a ballpoint signature, and I think he passed away in 1988. So he would have he might not have actually gone to shows, but he may have been a really good through the mail signer. Now I do have a few other autographs here that I want to show you real quickly. And this gentleman, Sam Chapman, not to be confused with Ben Chapman at all, completely different ball player. Ben Chapman had some serious issues with racism. This gentleman, absolutely not. A really decent signer. He, again, lived long enough so he could sign either a fountain pen or a ballpoint pen signature. And this is from the time in which he was playing. I suspect that it's from like 1940, 41. He served in World War II, so I think he was a pilot, as far as I remember him saying. And I never asked him what he flew. So, unlike Johnny Pesky, I know he flew I think it was a YB, which is like a seaplane, which had a tendency to explode, a flying gas can, as Johnny would say. And then another uh, period signature is this gentleman's right here. This is Harry Kraft, and he was the first manager of Mickey Mantle. So I actually got this one again from a friend of mine, and I really enjoy it, and I actually should do a video on Harry Kraft because he's a really interesting ball player. Another autograph of a player who could have signed obviously in the 1940s and up until 2006 was Cecil Travis. Uh, Really an American hero, a World War II vet. He was injured in the Battle of the Bulge. His feet got frostbite really bad, and it just destroyed his career afterwards. And he had to retire in 1947. I am probably going to do a video on him. He probably would have gotten in the Hall of Fame had he not entered World War II. But sometimes those things are more important than your career, which he felt so, and he was a really good signer through the mail. I don't ever recall seeing him in person, but 1941 play ball, really really neat card. But he signed quite a bit of cards. I haven't seen a signature of his when he was playing, but the what's really interesting about this specific card here is that he almost always signed at the bottom right here. And then Another card that I want to show you guys is Phil Rizzuto of the Money Store. And Phil Rizzuto, he signed quite a bit, and he's got a pretty nice signature. I really like this card quite a bit, the 51 play ball. His rookie is actually in the 1941 double play, which a lot of people think that it's a 1948 Bowman, which it is not. So that's his first card is in the 1941 double play set. But I think this is one of his best. So there are players that you're going to come across who played in the 1940s and 1950s and even 1960s that are very, very rare autographs, but they are seldom seen and they're not collected a lot, particularly because I think it's just maybe an education thing. And one of those guys is Mickey Harris right here. I believe he was a pitcher. I seem to remember that he was on the Red Sox for a short period of time, but that may have been like 1946. And he passed away really young. I think he was like in his 40s or 50s in 1971 or 72. So you do have guys who very rarely, if ever, signed autographs. The majority of autographs that I've seen are from the bigger stars, but the guys like this, they may be very rare because they just never have been asked to sign. They never went to shows, and they're not really, they may not be worth the most, or if they are, it's just because somebody actually knows what they're looking at, whereas the average collector might not actually know the significance of the autograph. And so, again, like I got kind of lucky with these. I bought about 20 or 25 autographed 1950, 51 Bowmans from a single source. So I'm like the second owner of this particular card. The guy who I got it from, he had passed away, and his wife. I was the lawyer of the estate that sold me this stuff because it was all in a box in the attic for 66 years. And so, other another autograph here too. I just want to show you guys real quickly is this gentleman right here. This is the double play partner of Ernie Banks. And what's funny about Eugene Baker is that in this particular set, the 57 set, he has a what used to be a quite sought after error on the back of the card, which I actually do have the error. It says Bakeup, and so something got caught as the printer was going, and it just kind of like obscured the latter portion of the Baker, the R, if you will. But that used to be a very popular card and popular error. Not now, not so much. But this was actually one of the first cards I ever got for my collection when I was a teenager. I really they're money makers. Anyway, guys, enough of me babbling. Let's get on to Joe Collins here, and I think you're gonna find this very interesting. Here we go. This is from the Star Ledger, Newark, New Jersey, August 31st, 1989. Joe Collins, 66, played for Yankees by Anthony F. Shannon. Joe Collins, a power-hitting first baseman with the New York Yankees during the pennant-winning 1950s, died yesterday at his home in Union after a brief illness. He was 66. Collins, whose teammates included Mickey Mantle, Yogi Berra, and Phil Rizzuto, had lived in Union for 40 years and was well known in the community. He hit Don Newcomb, the former Brooklyn Dodgers pitcher, like he owned him, said Union Township Mayor Anthony E. Russo, a friend for a quarter of a century. He was also an inspiration to the youth of many communities by his performance on the playing field and his gentlemanly civic-minded conduct. Collins, who helped organize the town's Little League a number of years ago, had a park named in his honor in the Larchmont section of Union 4 years ago. Collins, who was known as a clutch hitter, was a member of the Yankees ball club from 1948 to 1957. He was primarily a first baseman, but also played in the outfield. He had a .256 career batting average during regular season play and hit 86 home runs. His most productive home run years were 1952 to 1953, when he hit 18 and 17 respectively. He had an overall slugging average of .421. Collins also appeared in 36 World Series games and compiled a batting average of .163. During his career with the New York Yankees, the Yankees won 6 World Series. Collins hit 4 home runs in series play, including 2 during the Yankees-Dodgers series in 1955. "We'll miss him terribly," said Berra's wife Carmen. "Yogi and I were very close to Peg and Joe." Berra, who lives in Montclair, was in Chicago with the Houston Astros and could not be reached for comment. "He lived just up the street from me," said Reed Hagelin of Union, who knew Collins for more than 3 decades. "He was a real nice guy who always had a friendly hi for everyone. He'll really be missed." Collins was born in Scranton, Pennsylvania, where he lived until he moved to Union in 1949. After leaving the Yankees in 1958, he went to work for the People's Express Trucking in Newark. He retired as a vice president of the firm 2 years ago. Collins was a member of the Holy Name Society of Holy Spirit Church in Union and was also a member of the Union Council Knights of Columbus and Post 1583 Benevolent Protective Order of Elks in Union. Collins, who was a Navy pilot during World War II, was an officer with the Senior Citizens Housing Committee in Union and a former member of the Forest Hill Field Club. He was also active with the American Heart Association and the American Cancer Society in Union. He leaves his wife, the former Margaret Riley, 3 sons, Joseph Jr. of Somerset, Jim of Colonia, and Gary of Bricktown, 2 daughters, Miss Kathy Height of Cranford, I believe that's Rhode Island, and Mrs. Cheryl Yakimatis of Roselle Park, a brother George, and a sister, Mrs. Dolores Ruthier, both of Scranton. Arrangements are by the McCracken Funeral Home, 1500 Morris Ave, Union, where visiting hours are 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. today and 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. tomorrow. A funeral mass will be offered Saturday at 9 a.m. Nope, that's 9:30 a.m. in Holy Spirit Church in Union. Burial will be in the Fairview Cemetery in Westfield. So I really wanted to find out more about Joe Collins. SABR hasn't done a biography on Joe Collins at all, which I'm kind of surprised at. There is somebody who is doing that biography. When that's going to actually be published, I'm not even sure. But SABR does a lot of great work on doing biographies on a lot of these ball players. And Joe Collins may have been a very popular player during his career and during his time with the Yankees. Again, having a 10-year career with the Yankees during their heyday is an amazing thing. And again, like I don't have any cards of his. His 1957 tops looks really awesome. I'd love to find one that's autographed. Again, I don't know how often he autographed cards. If he was in the public as often as the article suggests, then he may have autographed quite a bit, in fact, because apparently it sounded like everybody in Union knew who he was. And so, sometimes being in the Yankees in the 1950s or like the 1960s can be very advantageous for the rest of your life. So it's usually not your superstar ball players whose autographs are rare. It's usually the guys who show up at the game and then they go home after. Maybe a guy like this right here, Harry Kraft, who maybe just he goes and he plays a handful of games every year and then he calls it a career and people forget about him. or his career, and that usually happens generation to generation as well. So it's just not, Joe Collins and the fans who would watch Joe Collins play. Obviously, you'd be like in your like 70s or 80s at least to have watched Joe Collins play, and maybe even in your 90s. So I kind of understand that. And then again, Joe Collins, he passed away in 1989, so uh, he may not have gone to a lot of shows. There were ball players who were actually signing at shows in the 1980s, especially. And Bob Feller was actually the first ball player that I'm aware of who was asked to sign autographs at a show in 1974. And he's kind of interesting because Feller he'd crisscross the United States in his car. He'd just get in his car and just drive. And for him, it was a great way to meet fans and people of all generations. And that's how you got people who may have watched Bob Feller play wanting his autograph after he retired, and then him introducing himself to other generations of fans who now know who Bob Feller is and may have gotten an autograph from Bob Feller. And so a lot of these players, they jumped from generation to generation. And the interesting thing here is that I had shown you guys this card right here of Phil Rizzuto, and Phil Rizzuto is a cross generational player. Same with Yogi Berra and Frank Gifford. So there were fans who saw those guys play, and then there were fans who remembered announcing the games. And Yogi Berra was all over the place too, making these commercials. They were known throughout maybe three generations. I did know Phil Rizzuto from the Money Store, from those commercials. I always kind of wondered too about those, if they were mafia influenced. I'm just throwing it out there. I know Phil Rizzuto had a mafia connection, but that's how you get fans of all generations too, and then you have your Jackie Robinson type players who transcend baseball altogether because of who they were and what they did. And I may think that Phil Rizzuto and Yogi Berra, again, are those types of players as well who just transcend baseball and enter into a certain type of Americana. And so, what's also kind of interesting too about that article was that Joe Collins seems to have really been in the community and helping out the community as well. And it may have been where a lot of people in the community asked him for his autograph, and he obliged. He may have also missed the time in which the autograph shows were really becoming more and more popular. Again, you can go back to 1974 on those things, but by the 1980s, you had guys like Joe DiMaggio and Mickey Mantle and Willie Mays and Duke Snider and all these guys who were going to shows and autographing for fans to supplement their pensions. So you had a lot of that too. But then again, you also have guys who missed all that stuff because they were called up to the Field of Dreams back in the 1950s or 60s or 70s and maybe early 80s, like Oscar Mello here. So I really wanted to kind of discuss this with you guys, and I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about anything I've talked about here. Oh, by the way, I will be at the Shriner show in Wilmington, at the Lucky's Boston show next week, and I'll be reporting from there, hopefully, and hopefully I'll see a few of you guys there as well. So until the next time or the next show, I will talk to you guys later. Have a good one. Bye.